Fatima's fingers trembled around crumpled eviction notice when a stranger's elbow bumped hers. Plop. A chamomile tea bag landed in her palm. Parisian market vibes swirled, lavender, fresh bread, judgmental cheese vendors. 48, she'd survived wars, border queues, but this? A cosmic joke. Yet that tiny bag whispered rebellion. Next Sunday, she hijacked a cafe's back room, brewing courage in porcelain cups. 5 women came. Then 20. Each sip unraveled stress like smuggled silk. Fatima's fingers trembled around crumpled eviction notice when a sound sliced through her panic, her mother's old teacup rattling against its saucer in breeze. That delicate chime had followed her from Marrakesh to Paris, a ghost of shared dawn sipping chamomile under jasmine-heavy air. Now, 48, she clutched porcelain like an anchor, its cracks mapping her own fractures. Parisian market strolls usually soothed her, but today each step felt like wading through wet cement. Stall vendors' laughter buzzed around her, oblivious. She paused by a tea merchant, inhaling chamomile's honeyed warmth. A flyer fluttered under a tin. Stress? Try our tasting circle, newbies welcome. Her laugh came out rusty. Since when did stress need an invitation? That evening, she hovered outside cafe, knees betraying her with their middle-aged creak. Inside, steam curled above mismatched cups, strangers cradling them like shared secrets. When her turn came, heat seeped into her palms, unfurling a memory, her mother's voice humming as petals swirled in golden liquid. First sip, sunlight through a childhood window. Second sip, courage, bitter then sweet. By third cup, her eviction notice seemed less like a guillotine and more like a stubborn jar lid, annoying, but conquerable with right grip. Cup's chip, she realized, wasn't a flaw but a fingerprint, proof it had survived journey. She signed up for next week's meetup, chuckling how life's worst vibes sometimes steeped into something drinkable. Walking home, her steps lighter, she caught her reflection in a bakery window, a woman holding warmth, steeped in her own resilience. Fatima's fingers trembled around a crumpled eviction notice when a whiff of chamomile snagged her attention. Across cobbled street, a sun-faded sign swayed, the Deux Étoiles. Inside, steam curled from mismatched cups as women laughed over shared pots. Her stomach growled, not from hunger, but that ache for connection. Parisian drizzle slicked her scarf as she hesitated, then pushed through door. A silver-haired woman with ink-stained cuffs, Simone, 72, ex-librarian turned tea alchemist, caught Fatima's stumble over threshold. Ah, another wanderer, she murmured, sliding a cup toward her. Porcelain warmed Fatima's palms, its floral scent unspooling memories of her mother's garden in Marrakesh. Simone didn't ask about notice peeking from her bag. Instead, she tapped cup's rim. This one's for courage. Sip slow, sherry, storms pass faster when you've got roots. By week's end, Fatima found herself elbow-deep in Tea Leaves Simone's monthly tasting meetup, learning to distinguish bergamot's citrusy punch from lavender's sleepy sigh. Group, a mosaic of migrants and locals, ribbed her for mistaking oolong for Darjeeling, but their laughter carried no edge. Between steeps, Simone taught her to read French rental laws scrawled on café napkins, their ink blurring where Fatima's tears fell. Paperwork's just bitter tea, Simone winked. Swallow it quick, then chase with something sweet. Market strolls became her new ritual. She'd hunt for Honeycomb Bastille stalls, swapping tips with Tunisian spice vendors who called her Sir. One evening, she hosted her own tasting in a borrowed flat, serving mint chamomile blends in chipped thrift store cups. As steam fogged windows, she realized teacup wasn't just a vessel, it was a bridge. When eviction deadline loomed, group pooled contacts to find her a studio near Père Lachaise. Fatima, now 49, still keeps Simone's first cup on her sill. Some mornings, she catches her reflection in its curves, not a ghost of fear, but a woman steeping in resilience, one fragrant sip a time. Fatima's fingers trembled around crumpled eviction notice when a whiff of chamomile cut through her panic. Somewhere in her tiny kitchen, a forgotten tea bag steeped in yesterday's mug, its golden scent nudging her lungs open. 48 years of survival instincts kicked in. She shoved notice under a stack of unpaid bills, her version of filing, and reached for chipped teacup with stubborn defiance. Parisian drizzle blurred her window as she sipped, bitterness dissolving into warmth. Market strolls had taught her this, even wilted herbs held magic if you knew how to steep them right. That eviction notice? Just another bitter leaf waiting to be transformed. 3 days later, she marched into a tea-tasting meetup near Montmartre, clutching her grandmother's dented tin of dried chamomile. Host, a Breton woman with lavender streaks in her hair, raised an eyebrow. Fatima's pulse hammered, but she channeled vibes of every haggling session Marquet d'Aliger, chin up, shoulders loose. "Try this," she said, pouring hot water over petals with precision of a chemist. Skeptical murmurs turned to murmurs of approval as floral steam curled between them. Back home, she counted coins into a jar labeled rent, but her mind buzzed with possibilities. What if her tea could be more than a bedtime ritual? What if it could stitch together frayed nerves of women like her, migrants, mothers, survivors sipping solace in foreign kitchens? She sketched labels on napkins, each design echoing cracks in her teacup, not flaws, but proof it had held heat and survived. By week's end, she'd bartered her way into a stall market, trading tea samples for advice from a Tunisian spice vendor. "You fight like my grandmother," he laughed, tossing extra saffron into her palm. Fatima grinned, stirring a pot with one hand while flipping through a dog-eared French phrasebook with other. Every misstep, burnt leaves, awkward grammar, felt lighter when steeped in humor. Rain slapped her cheeks as she hauled her folding table home that evening, but her chest burned with something fiercer than chamomile. That eviction notice still lurked, but so did memory of a Parisian boutique owner sniffing her blend and murmuring, "This tastes like courage." Fatima's fingers, once trembling, now measured petals with steady rhythm of a woman rewriting her story, one cup a time. Fatima's fingers trembled around crumpled eviction notice when her gaze landed on chipped teacup by sink, her mother's last gift, carried across borders like a whispered prayer. Parisian rain blurred her window, but that cup held sunlight. A reckless idea sparked. What if strangers shared tea like her village once shared stories? Next morning, she marched past scoffing Boulangerie regulars, arms full of chamomile bundles from her market stroll. With shaky hands, she taped a sign to a Montmartre bench: "Stress? Sit. Sip. Breathe." Then plunked down her mother's cup beside a steaming thermos. Tourists side-eyed her. A sharp-nosed woman in Chanel sneered, until woman winked and nudged cup forward. 48 years young, madam. Not too late to try rebellion. Woman snorted, then sipped. A sigh escaped. Someone snapped a photo. By sunset, a crowd cluttered bench. Laughter tangled with steam as she refilled cups, her pulse steady for first time in months. That photo? Viral by midnight. A journalist called it quiet revolution in a teacup. Skeptic from earlier returned with friends, cheeks flushed. "You knew," she muttered. She just smiled. Weeks later, City Hall offered her a vacant kiosk for weekly tea meetups. Holding her mother's cup aloft under twinkling market lights, Fatima finally exhaled. Paris hummed around her, not as a stranger, but as a woman who turned panic into purpose. Belonging, she realized, wasn't given. It was brewed, one bold sip a time. Fatima's fingers trembled around a crumpled eviction notice when chamomile steam curled into her nostrils, softening edges of panic. Parisian rain tapped windows as she sipped, warmth pooling in her chest. That teacup, cracked, thrifted, stubbornly floral, became an anchor. By week's end, she dragged a wobbly card table into her building's courtyard, slapped down a kettle, and scrawled the solidaire on recycled cardboard. Neighbors trickled in, a Tunisian grandmother clutching rosewater biscuits, a Senegalese student humming into steam, a Breton widow with lavender tucked behind one ear. Market strolls turned into herb hunting missions, fat bundles of mint, star anise clinking like loose change. Fatima, 48, discovered odd habits calmed her, arranging lemon slices in spirals, counting honey drips aloud. Laughter replaced silence. Her meetups weren't therapy, those shoulders unhunched like magic, but alchemy, stress strained through tea leaves, leaving gold dust vibes. One autumn dusk, that chipped cup sat center stage, a pop-up tasting in Montmartre. Strangers leaned in as she guided hands to cup warmth, murmuring, "Breathe like steam rises." A journalist scribbled notes, a chef vowed to feature her blends. Home wasn't just a roof now, it was steam on skin, shared silence, 100 tiny surrenders to joy. Steep your struggle.